My wife slept with my best friend while I was at my father's funeral, so I recorded everything and let the truth destroy them both. I'm a 34-year-old man, and losing my dad was the hardest thing I've ever lived through. He wasn't just my father, he was my compass, the person I'd call about everything from car trouble to life decisions. When he passed, it felt like the world went quiet, like someone had turned down the volume on life itself. In those early weeks, my wife, Emily, and my best friend, Derek, became my lifeline. They'd cook meals, check in every day, and make sure I wasn't drowning in my own silence. Emily would stroke my hair at night, whispering, "He'd be proud of you." Derek would sit with me for hours, sharing old stories about Dad, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have them, the two people I trusted most. But as the days went by, something in Emily began to shift. Her hugs felt shorter, her eyes always somewhere else. She'd take longer to reply to texts, saying she was just tired or overwhelmed. I noticed her smiling at her phone more than usual, but I told myself I was imagining things. Grief can make you paranoid. The morning of the funeral, I could barely breathe putting on my black suit. Emily looked beautiful but distant, her eyes red yet unreadable. Derek stood by me, hand on my shoulder, saying, "You got this, man." He'd be proud. When I stood at the podium to give Dad's eulogy, the church lights blurred. My voice cracked halfway through, and I caught Emily's gaze in the crowd. But she wasn't looking at me. Her eyes flicked down, quick, nervous, as if caught. I paused for a second, heart racing for reasons I couldn't explain. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was something else. But in that moment, something inside me whispered, "Something's wrong." After the funeral, I thought the worst was over. I believed grief would fade, that Emily and I would lean on each other and find our way back to normal. But the house felt haunted, not by Dad, but by silence. Emily started suggesting I spend a few days with my mom, just to clear your head. She said it softly, almost too kindly, and Derek echoed her, saying, "Yeah, man, your mom needs you right now. I'll keep an eye on things here." It made sense. My mom was alone, lost without Dad. So I packed a bag and drove an hour to her place, trying not to read too much into how relieved Emily looked when I left. Those first nights, Derek kept texting to check in. "You holding up? Don't worry about Emily, I'll make sure she's okay." It was thoughtful, too thoughtful. He called every evening, asking if I'd eaten, if I was sleeping, if I was okay. At first I appreciated it, but then I noticed how Emily barely texted. When she did, her replies were short. "Yeah, busy day. Just tired. Love you." My mom, fragile but intuitive, asked one night, "Is everything all right between you and Emily?" I forced a smile and said, "Of course. She's been amazing." But even as I said it, I remembered her distracted eyes at the funeral, the way she avoided my touch, how Derek seemed to fill every emotional gap she left. I told myself I was overthinking. After all, Derek had been my best friend since college, the kind of guy who'd drive across town just to help you change a tire. Still, something about the way he said, "Don't worry about Emily. I got her," lingered longer than it should have. And late that night, staring at my phone screen, I felt a flicker of unease, the kind that comes before your life starts to unravel. A few days at my mom's house turned into a week. I told myself I was staying longer to take care of her, but deep down, I knew I was avoiding something. Every time I called Emily, she sounded distracted. I could hear faint background noises, laughter, music, once even a man's voice. And when I asked about it, she said, "Oh, just Netflix." Or, "Derek stopped by to check the fuse box." Derek. It was always Derek. One evening, as I unpacked my laptop to show my mom some old photos, I realized something. I still had remote access to our home security system. I'd installed it last year when we had a break-in scare, connecting the cameras to my laptop and phone. I hadn't checked it in months. Out of habit, I logged in. The live feed showed my empty living room, lights dimmed, curtains half drawn. Nothing unusual. But when I clicked on the motion history, I noticed several alerts. Times when someone had moved through the house late at night. The strangest part? The audio logs were muted. Manually. I frowned. I'd never muted them. I tried calling Emily. No answer. I texted, "Everything okay?" No reply for an hour. Then, finally, "Sorry, fell asleep early," except the footage from that exact hour showed the living room lights flicking on and off. I told myself it must be a glitch. Maybe she walked by and didn't realize. But the pit in my stomach said otherwise. Derek called later that night, voice casual. "How's your mom doing?" "She's hanging in," I said. "You been over at the house?" He hesitated, then laughed. "Just helping Em with a few things, man. You know how she gets when stuff breaks." I tried to laugh back, but something cracked in my voice, because right then I realized something was breaking. And it wasn't the fuse box. It was close to midnight when I decided to check the footage again. My mom had gone to bed, and the house was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator. I told myself I'd look for 30 seconds, just to calm my nerves. But when I opened the security feed, I saw a notification I hadn't noticed before. Activity detected. Master bedroom. My hand trembled as I clicked it. The screen flickered for a second, then loaded the recording. Emily's silhouette appeared in the doorway, wearing her robe, the one I'd bought her last Christmas. She looked nervous. A few seconds later, Derek stepped into the frame. My heart stopped. He wasn't fixing a fuse box. He wasn't checking the locks. He was standing in my home, in my room, holding her. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt like my entire chest collapsed inward. I watched, frozen, as they kissed. Hesitant at first, then desperate. Emily whispered something I couldn't hear. Derek touched her face and she laughed. That laugh. The same one she used to give me when we were newlyweds. I wanted to throw my laptop across the room, but instead I hit record. I recorded every minute, hands shaking, eyes burning, face wet with tears I didn't even feel. They fell asleep in my bed, tangled up in the sheets that still smelled like me. I sat there staring at the screen long after the footage ended. My reflection stared back, pale, hollow, unrecognizable. I didn't scream. I didn't call. I didn't even move. Because in that moment, something inside me died quietly. And what replaced it wasn't anger. Not yet. It was something colder, something patient. That was the night I stopped being the man Emily married. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the dark, watching the seconds blink by on the laptop clock, feeling my heartbeat echo in my ears. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, laughing, whispering, lying in my bed. The grief for my father twisted into something darker, something heavy that settled in my chest like wet cement. When morning came, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. My eyes were swollen, my jaw clenched tight. But when my phone buzzed, Emily calling, I wiped my face and answered. "Hey, babe," she said softly, voice sugary sweet. "You okay?" "You sound tired." "I'm fine," I lied. My voice didn't even crack. I'd found a new kind of calm, the kind that comes right before a storm. She told me she missed me, that the house felt empty without me. I said I'd be home soon, maybe by the weekend. She sounded almost disappointed. Over the next few days, I played my part perfectly. I texted like normal, laughed at Derek's jokes, even thanked him for looking out for her. On the outside, I was composed. Inside, I was studying every message, every word, every slip. Because now, I had a purpose. I started backing up every file, every log, every video clip. I saved screenshots, call records, and texts. I was no longer a husband or a friend. I was an observer. And the more I watched, the more detached I became. People say revenge is born out of rage, but that's not true. Rage burns out fast. What I felt was quieter, sharper, like glass under the skin. And I knew then, I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. I was going to let them think they'd won. 2 weeks later, my mom hosted a small gathering to honor my father's 40th day memorial. A quiet evening of candles, prayers, and shared memories. Emily insisted on coming. She said it was important to stand by me. Derek volunteered to help set up chairs and bring food. Of course he did. When they arrived, I watched them like a scientist studying a dangerous species. Emily hugged my mom, smiled softly, played the part of the grieving daughter-in-law. Derek shook my hand, his grip firm but his eyes twitching with something. Guilt, maybe fear. I couldn't tell anymore. I'd become numb to everything but observation. During dinner, people shared stories about Dad. I was quiet until someone asked Derek to say a few words. He stood up, cleared his throat, and said, "Mr. Reynolds was like a second father to me." The irony nearly made me choke. As he spoke, Emily kept glancing at him, quick, stolen looks that burned like acid in my gut. I turned away, pretending not to notice, but my mother did. She leaned toward me and whispered, "Something feels wrong between them." I forced a smile and said, "You're just tired, Mom." Then, as if fate wanted to twist the knife deeper, Derek's girlfriend Sarah walked in late. She hadn't told anyone she was coming, and when her eyes landed on Emily and Derek sitting close together, I saw confusion flash across her face. Emily froze. Derek coughed, pretending to check his phone. Something in me clicked right then. It wasn't just a one-time betrayal. The affair had roots, long before the funeral, maybe even before my father's passing. And if that was true, then every moment of comfort, every hug, every "you're not alone" had been a lie. That night, as everyone left, I looked at Emily and Derek smiling in the doorway, and I knew this wasn't just grief anymore. This was war. After that night, something inside me solidified. The pain had done its job. It had burned everything soft out of me. What was left was focus. I stopped drinking, stopped crying, stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. I had proof, but proof wasn't enough. I wanted exposure. I wanted truth to hit them the same way their betrayal had hit me. Slowly, painfully, and in front of everyone they cared about. Emily didn't suspect a thing. If anything, she seemed relieved that I'd calmed down. She started talking about redecorating the house, asking if I wanted to plan a small anniversary dinner when I got back. I said yes. I told her to invite Derek and Sarah. "It'd be nice to have close friends there," I said. She smiled through the phone, and I swear I could hear guilt in her voice. Meanwhile, I got to work. Every night after my mom went to sleep, I sat in the kitchen stitching together video clips from the security feed, time-stamped and labeled. I backed them up on 3 separate drives, one hidden in my bag, one mailed to a friend out of town, and one in cloud storage. I even edited the footage like a story. I started it with a slideshow of my dad. His voice, his photos, his laughter. Then, halfway through, the tribute dissolved into the truth. Emily and Derek together in my bed. The first time I played it through, I nearly threw up. But then, after watching again, I felt calm. There was something about seeing it framed, like their lies could finally be contained. By the end of the week, the video was ready. All I had to do was wait, and when the day came, I'd make sure the audience was perfect. The night of the dinner, everything looked perfect. Emily had gone all out. Candles, wine glasses, soft jazz in the background. She wore the black dress I'd always loved, the one she hadn't touched in months. "Feels good to dress up again," she said, kissing my cheek. Her lipstick left a mark I didn't wipe away. Not yet. Derek arrived right on time with a bottle of wine, acting like the loyal friend he'd always pretended to be. Sarah followed a few minutes later, smiling warmly, unaware of the storm about to hit. I greeted them all with a steady calm, masking the tremor beneath my skin. Dinner was light. Laughter, small talk, even a few toasts. Emily joked about how strong I'd been through the grief. Derek nodded, saying, "He's tougher than any of us." I wanted to laugh. Tough? No, just hollow. After dessert, I stood up. "Before we wrap up, I made something," I said. "A little tribute for my dad." Emily's eyes softened. "Oh, that's beautiful, babe." I connected my laptop to the TV. The screen lit up with a slideshow of my father, his fishing trips, his smile, old home videos of us building furniture together. Everyone watched quietly, tears glistening. Emily even reached for my hand, Then, halfway through, the video glitched. The soft music cut. The screen flickered. And there they were, Emily and Derek, caught in my bedroom, laughing, touching, kissing. The room went dead silent. Emily gasped, choking on air. Derek froze, color draining from his face. Sarah dropped her glass, wine splashing across the table like blood. What is this? Emily stammered, eyes wide. I just looked at her and said softly, "The truth." Then I turned, grabbed my coat, and walked out, leaving the footage looping behind me. Every kiss, every betrayal playing louder and louder, and as the door shut behind me, I didn't feel rage or victory. Just silence. Beautiful, heavy silence. By morning, my phone was a graveyard of missed calls and voicemails. Emily's voice shook in each one, crying, begging, cursing, then begging again. Please, it wasn't what it looked like. We were drunk. You can't just ruin our lives over one mistake. But I didn't listen past the first few seconds. I'd already heard enough lies to last a lifetime. Sarah, on the other hand, didn't beg. She posted the video online, not out of revenge for me, but to humiliate Derek. By noon, it had spread through our social circles like wildfire. Derek's boss saw it. His family saw it. His reputation, the charming, dependable guy everyone loved, shattered in hours. Emily called again that afternoon. I answered this time. Her voice was small, broken. "You've destroyed me," she whispered. "No," I said quietly. "You did that yourself." I hung up before she could respond. For the next few days, I stayed off social media, turned off notifications, and ignored everyone. Friends messaged me, pretending to be worried, but curiosity was all they really had. My mom didn't know the full story yet. I told her I just needed time. In the quiet, I expected to feel satisfaction, vindication even. But all I felt was empty, like my chest had been scooped out, leaving nothing but echo. I started packing a few essentials, leaving behind everything that reminded me of them. The house, the bed, the life I'd built around lies. When I locked the door for the last time, I didn't look back, because sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's the final act of strength, and though their lives were in ruins now, mine, for the first time in years, was completely silent. The silence I thought would bring peace soon became unbearable. Nights were the worst, the kind of quiet that made you hear your own heartbeat and wonder if it was worth listening to. I'd sit on the edge of the bed in my small rented apartment, staring at the wall, replaying everything. The funeral, the footage, the dinner. Each memory hit like a slow punch to the gut. Grief came back, only this time it wasn't for my father. It was for the man I used to be. The one who trusted too easily, who believed love meant loyalty. That man was gone, buried alongside every promise Emily ever made. One night, I found myself gripping my car keys, trembling. I didn't know where I was driving until I ended up parked outside Derek's place. The lights were on. For a second, I imagined walking up, knocking, and letting every ounce of pain explode. My fists clenched so hard my nails broke skin. But then I remembered something my dad told me once, back when I was a teenager furious about some betrayal at school. He'd said, "Son, you can't wrestle with snakes and come out clean. Sometimes you just have to let them eat each other." I sat there for an hour, watching the lights through the windshield, trying to breathe that wisdom into myself. When I finally started the car, I wasn't proud. I was just exhausted. That night I broke down completely. I screamed until my throat gave out, until the grief, anger, and betrayal blurred into one unbearable sound. Then I just stopped, and in that silence for the first time I realized something terrifying. Revenge hadn't saved me. It had only burned everything down. I was standing in the ashes of my own soul. Healing wasn't something I planned. It just started one small, fragile step at a time. I deleted the videos, not to protect them, but to protect myself. Every time I watched, it kept me chained to the worst night of my life. I wanted to move forward, not circle the same wound forever. I found a therapist nearby, a quiet woman with kind eyes who didn't flinch when I told her everything. The funeral, the affair, the revenge. She didn't judge. She just said, "You've been living in survival mode. It's time to start living again." For the first time, I let myself grieve properly. Not for Emily or Derek, but for my dad. I visited his grave every Sunday. I'd sit there for hours, telling him about my week, the progress I was making, the small victories like cooking my first meal in months or getting through a night without replaying the betrayal. Sometimes, I'd still hear his voice in my head. "Take care of your heart, son. Not everyone deserves to hold it." I used to think that meant guarding it from pain. Now I think it meant not letting pain define me. Slowly, the world started to feel real again. I began jogging in the mornings, spending time with my mom, fixing up things in her house like Dad used to. I even laughed again. Awkward, rusty, but genuine. One evening, as the sun set behind the cemetery, I placed fresh flowers on Dad's grave and whispered, "I'm okay. Dad, I'm finally okay." The wind moved through the trees like a sigh of approval, and for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Almost a year later, Emily called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity, or maybe closure, made me swipe. Her voice was softer than I remembered, trembling but rehearsed. "I found God," she said. "I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry. For everything." I listened quietly, staring at the half-packed boxes around my apartment. I was moving to a new city for work. A clean slate. Emily kept talking, her words tumbling out like she was desperate to rewrite history. "You were a good man," she said. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. For a long moment I said nothing. Then I took a breath and replied, "I already forgave you, Emily. I just don't need you anymore." She started crying, but I didn't stay to hear the rest. I hung up, set the phone down, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the empty kind that follows destruction, but the quiet kind that comes when you stop looking backward. The next day, I drove to the cemetery one last time. I brought my father's old watch, the one he wore every day, and the gold ring Emily once wore as my wife. I placed them both beside his gravestone. "You were right, Dad," I said softly. "Truth always wins. It just hurts first." The air was cool, the sky painted in soft gold and blue. For once, there was no bitterness, no anger, only gratitude that I'd survived it. As I turned to leave, I looked back one final time and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me what love really isn't." And with that, I walked away, lighter, freer, and finally unburdened by the ghosts of betrayal. Because sometimes closure doesn't come from getting even. It comes from finally being done.